Hold on. Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our Nirvana Day service today. I know it was hard to get out and come to the temple this morning since the big game's on today, later on today. But thank you for joining us today. Today's Nirvana Day service, and that's when Shakyamuni, awakened. He attained perfect enlightenment at his death at age 80. So we'll hear more about that today. But first, we'll get started with the ringing of the kancho, followed by the chanting of Sambutsuge, which will be on the screen in front of you or on page 77 in the purple book. Namandab. So
法開門精進三昧智慧意徳無量修正形人内善念勝負の会主人人の不合外体無明欲ぬ生存用無二の死死人徳無量空空口内知恵人妙道妙意相人道内戦南が差分大小大道生じ未不下段不正常意大人精進妙税三昧知恵以上同性特分不病死願一切空空一切大安定しう分百千の九万無量内生修行道者供養一切人小分不行愚道天正不逆非妙道者小分世界無不影無修仙道法名師匠変師匠国行税精進非人難老老が差分国道内一等種奇妙道場朝鮮国女内音名無闘争羅長愛民道夏一切自法来生新年少女一等が国経楽安穏当分神妙霊が心象本願の 力少々欲自法生存自営無下上老子孫自我信行敬老心死諸苦毒中南無上人人寿不下
Now we will have the reading of three treasures.
In reading the three treasures, hard it is to receive a human form. Now we have received it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma. Now we hear it. If we do not receive awakening in this life, in what life shall we do so? Let us reverently take refuge together in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. Together with all beings, may we attain the great way of enlightenment, awakening to the supreme intent of the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. Together with all beings, may we enter the storehouse of Dharma, acquiring wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. Together with all beings, may we become united as a great assembly, being free of all bondage. Hard is it to encounter the supreme, profound, and wondrous Dharma, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us truly understand the true intent of the Tathagata. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandas, Namandas. 三期右衛門、人参受けがたし、今すでに行く。仏法を聞きがたし、今すでに聞く。この身根性に向かってどせずんば、さらにいずれの章に向かってか、この身をどせん。大衆もろともに、死神に三方に消えし立てまつるべし。自ら仏に消えし立てまつる。 まさに願わくは主情とともに大道を体現して無常意を起こさん。自ら法に帰えし立てまつる。まさに願わくは主情とともに深く共造に入りて知恵海のごとくならん。自ら僧に帰えし立てまつる。まさに願わくは主情とともに大衆を通りして一切無下ならん。無常人人未明の方は百千万号にも愛をことかたし、我今検問し授事することを得たり、願わくは如来の真実義を下し立てまつらん。ナマンダウス、ナンバンダウス、ナマンダウス、ナマンダウス、ナマンダウス。
Now I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker for today's Nirvana Day service, Reverend John Turner from Orange County Buddhist Church. He's a resident minister there. He and his family began attending Orange County Buddhist Church in 1999. 2 years later, they joined the Minister's Assistant Program there. In 2010, Reverend Turner graduated from the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley, California, with a master's degree in Buddhist studies and received Tokudo ordination. In 2012, he was ordained as a Kyoshi minister. After retiring from a 35-year career as a computer programmer, Reverend Turner became a fully ordained Kaikyoshi minister at OCBC in 2017. And this is a quote, "Throughout that time I studied and practiced Buddhism very diligently. I have also stepped in every pothole, making every mistake one can make in understanding Buddhism. As a result, I think these experiences helped me become a better teacher." So I would like to invite Reverend John Turner to speak on our, share his Dharma message today. Thank you.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. All right. First, I'd like to thank West LA Temple and Sensei for inviting me. I came last year as well on the same topic, and I remember it vividly because it's the most important religious holiday in the United States, Super Bowl Sunday. But today we're going to focus on parinirvana. I have gotten confused about a lot of different things, and I guess confused is not the right term. I was thinking maybe I should say there's different levels and different layers to the teachings. So maybe I was at the shallow end, and I've gotten I've waded into the deep end a little bit more. So not confused, but beginning to appreciate the layers and the depth of the Buddhist teachings. I also wanted to mention that I do have a computer science background. I went to UCLA. And I don't know where it is, but I went to UCLA, and I got a bachelor's in mathematics and a master's in computer science, and I programmed for 35 years. And I've been using a free version of Microsoft PowerPoint for a long time, and I've noticed that other ministers had cooler and better-looking PowerPoints than I did, and I had computer envy. So finally, my Mac told me that I wasn't getting any more updates. My version is obsolete. It's being sunsetted. So I finally went and paid for Microsoft Office 365. And I jazzed up my slides for you guys. Mine were all black with rectangular pictures and text. But I'm so excited. This is like very new and fancy. So there's 3 major historical holidays that we observe for the Buddha's life. One is Hanamatsuri, coming up April 8th, and that's we acknowledge or memorialize or honor the birth of the historical Buddha. And then on December 8th, we call that Bodhi Day, and that's when the Buddha realized awakening at 35 years old under the Bodhi tree. And then today, February 15th, is called Nirvana Day, and this is when he passed. But I've always found this a little bit misleading because his enlightenment kind of comes in two parts. There's initial awakening under the Bodhi tree, and then there's a complete and final. So parinirvana means complete. Pari means complete and total, and nirvana means awakening. So here's an image of the Buddha facing west at 80 years old, passing away. So we're actually observing his final and complete awakening at 80. So for me, it helps me to think of, we have Hanamatsuri, but I prefer to think of Bodhi Day as Nirvana Day, because that's when he first realized awakening. And then today is Parinirvana Day. So it's a little, I don't know why they named it that way, but it's a little misleading. And there's kind of two ways to look at this story. We can kind of look at it historically, but we can also not worry so much about that and worry more about what the story is telling us. What's the meaning of the story? So there's two major branches of Buddhism. One is Theravadan and one is Mahayana. And Theravadan tends to be a little bit more factual. This is a generalization, but a little bit more factual, focusing a bit more on the historical Buddha. But in Mahayana Buddhism, it's not a question of whether the stories are true. That's just not relevant. It's what are they trying to tell us? What's the meaning? Why did that happen? Why is that plot point there? So I wanted to show you, Mahayana Sutras are grand, huge, epic stories. So I went into my library at work, and it took me a while to find this. But this is one of the Pali Sutras, one of the Pali canons. And it's kind of funny. They sort it not by subject or era, but by length. And so I looked up to find the Nirvana Sutra in this book. And, this is how long it is. It's not very long. That's it. And the actual title of it is not the Nirvana Sutra. It's the Maha Parinirvana Sutra. So Maha means great. So the actual title is the Great Complete Enlightenment Sutra. But it's only this long because it's fairly factual and straightforward. So this is the, earlier Buddhism. And then I wanted to show you the Mahayana version. So this is confusing too. There's two sutras that have the same name, but one's from the Theravada canon and one's from the Mahayana canon. So, this is way longer, right? This is huge. This is huge. It's really long. But what's even more interesting is this is only the first of 4 volumes. So it's 4 times this long. So, when you read this, it's very repetitive. It washes over you like listening to a song. And you're not really reading it for knowledge. You're reading it for the feeling it gives you. And it's like listening to music or a symphony. It just rolls over you and it touches you. And you begin to get a feel for the story because it's so repetitious. And a lot of times it's repetitious because it's meant to be chanted, right? So it's an immersive experience when you read this text. And this one tends to be a little bit more factual. And then as an aside, we're kind of lucky in Pure Land tradition. We're Mahayana, but our main text is only this long. So we get the best of both worlds. So what I would like to do today is kind of go on a journey with you on this journey. This is called a solar myth. So we're going to start in the east, and this is where the day begins, right? This is where we wake up, right? When the sun rises in the east, we awaken. And then throughout our lives and throughout the day, the sun begins to set, right? And the day is over, right? It's dark, and we're done for the day. And so we'll see this motif used in the story of the Buddha. And, in our tradition, it's important to kind of remember that the Pure Land is in the west. And when the Buddha dies, he's facing west. So I think that's a major plot point or symbol or message in the story. So here is what I would call Nirvana Day. This is the Buddha. He practiced for 6 years, from 29 to 35. He was a very devout ascetic. This is way more than monasticism, right? He wouldn't eat. He lost tons of weight. And a woman named Sujata saw him sitting under a Bodhi tree, and he was using grasses as a bed to sit on. And Sujata is an interesting name. It's a very common Indian name for women. When I was programming, my boss's wife's name was Sujata. And being Buddhist, I thought that was the greatest coincidence ever. So she's coming to make an offering to a tree. And they say it's like sweetened milk, or, very sweetened milk. So I like to tell the kids when I tell this story, it's like a McDonald's vanilla milkshake. So the Buddha hasn't eaten much in 6 years, and she comes and makes this offering not to the tree, but to him. And he gets his strength back. He cleans up. He actually goes into a river and takes a bath. And the students and the disciples that were following him abandon him because they see him as a failure. And in this story, Sujata is like triple bad, right? She's a woman. She's very, very beautiful and young, and she's also single, and she's taking food from her. So this is like a very provocative plot point. So, he's abandoning asceticism like all the way and receiving this gift from Sujata. And after the Buddha becomes initially awakened, she becomes the first woman to join the Buddhist Sangha. So she's a very important female character. So after he eats the milk, takes his bath, puts on clean clothes, he sits under a Bodhi tree, and he says he's going to sit there until he realizes awakening. And they actually call this, it's very specific in the texts, they call it nirvana in the morning. So in the morning, facing the east, an eastern star, he realizes awakening. So this is kind of like the beginning of the sun's journey, right? He's facing east, and he realizes awakening. And he says, I'm awake. 7 weeks after his enlightenment, he left his seat under the tree and decided to teach others what he had learned, encouraging people to follow a path he called the middle way, which is one of balance rather than extremism. He gave his first sermon at Deer Park. So after his awakening experience, people see him and they start to call him the Buddha. And, it's not like a royal title. It literally means just to be awake. There's something about him. He seems like he's broken through and he's a different person now. So he goes to Deer Park and he gives his first Dharma talk to those 5 original disciples. And they all become part of his students again. And we had a gentleman at OCBC who grew up in India. And he said that going from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath for his Dharma talk at Deer Park is like really, really far away. So, maybe it was too far to walk, or maybe the story's been embellished, but somebody came up to me and said the distances don't add up. But it's not important. It's the meaning of the story. So the Buddha said that one of the most important meals he ever had was that meal from Sujata. And then he said there was a second meal that was most important. And this is the meal he ate at 80. He went to a gathering, and there was a blacksmith there named Kunda. And he made him a meal. And it's thought that he got food poisoning. And at 80, he became very ill. He died a very human death. It's very important that we see him as a human being and not a divine figure, because it makes it the path available to us. So at 80 years old, after eating, they think, bad pork, he begins his last day. And he lies down, as I said earlier, facing west, between twin sala trees rather than under a Bodhi tree. And then his 5 original disciples are in front. And again, this is parinirvana in the evening. This is always very explicit. So they always talk about these 2 enlightenment events separately. So he's facing west. he realizes complete and total enlightenment in the evening and passes away at 80 years old. So this is kind of his spiritual journey. Is they're making an analogy with the sun, right? Awakening in the east, traveling a path, and then at the end of your life, when everything's complete and done, and you realize complete awakening in the west. So his life is setting just as the sun sets. And this is what the Buddha said to his disciples before he passed. I read this often at funerals. He says, "My disciples, the last moment has come, but do not forget that death is but the vanishing of a body. The body was born from parents and was nourished by food, so sickness and death is unavoidable. But the true Buddha is not a human body. It is the teachings. A human body must vanish, but the teachings will exist forever. Those who see my body only are not the ones who truly see me. Those who accept my teachings are the ones that truly see me." So these were his last words before he passed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the three treasures. There, in Buddhism, there's 3 of these and 2 of those and 4 of this and 8 of that. I've made the joke before that it's the best religion for PowerPoint because we got bullets. We got so many bullets. So I wanted to show this to you. There's a website out there called Buddhism by Numbers, and it lists everything in Buddhism by numbers, right? We have the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, the 3 treasures. And I printed it out. It's over 50 pages. And it goes from everything that comes in 2s to everything that comes in 32s. And so the Buddha didn't really talk like a PowerPoint, but when they wrote the text down, they tended to put it in this kind of format because it made it easier to memorize and easier to chant. So I don't think the Buddha really, I mean, I love PowerPoint and I love bullets, but I don't think the Buddha really spoke in that way. But it was easy to capture and remember. So there's 215 uses of numbers. So that 50 pages has 250 numbered lists on it. 215. So under the 3s, there's a whole bunch of things that come in 3s, but we're going to talk about they call it the 3 jewels, the 3 treasures, the 3 refuges, the threefold refuge of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we often get this type of image. And I wanted to mention that when I first started to practice Buddhism, I think because I had a Christian background, I kind of thought the Buddha was most important. You know, like he's the founder, like Jesus. But he's not really a founder. He's more of a teacher. So he plays that role. So historically, these are the way the 3 treasures came about. The reason why we say Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is not in terms of importance and not in alphabetical order, but this is in historical order. So the Buddha, we have the Buddha realizing awakening. And then we have his first Dharma talk at Deer Park with his 5 disciples. And this is the beginning of the teachings. And then these 5 disciples become the original 5 of the Sangha. And I wanted to say that when I first started practicing, I thought the Buddha was most important, and then I thought the teachings were most important. But after we went through COVID and we were away for 3 years, I've really come to appreciate how important it is to have a Sangha, to be able to practice in a community, online school at OCBC called Everyday Buddhist. And it's got wonderful courses and videos and quizzes and auxiliary reading. But the feedback we get is many of the students don't live near a temple. And they're very sad. And they're yearning for a community and for a Buddhist community that they can practice with. So I just wanted to talk about the importance of Sangha, of the 3 treasures. And they're all equally important and they're all mutually reinforcing. It's like 3 legs on a table. If you lose one of the legs, it tips. So they all reinforce one another. But I really think having a place to practice is really vital. So in 2021, ministers have continuing ed. My wife's a dental hygienist, and she takes continuing ed all the time to keep her license. We have continuing ed, and it's called a Fuken. And in 2021, we had Reverend Paul Naaman of the Tendai tradition. So he is the bishop of American Tendai in the United States. So he's kind of like the Reverend Harada of Jodo Shinshu. And he gave this wonderful talk about Shinran and Pure Land Buddhism and its relation to Tendai. But at the end, there was questions and answers. And we asked him what was his opinion of Buddhism in America. And I think we threw him a softball, and I thought he was going to give us all these compliments. Like, you're doing great, the future's bright, you're great ministers, everything's looking positive. Because we're in the middle of COVID, right? So I was kind of hoping for like a ego feed or something. But he said that he was very concerned, and he doesn't have a lot of hope about Buddhism in America. And we were all like, oh, that's a downer. But he said that he's worried because American Buddhists tend to be very academic and intellectual. And there's a phenomenon they call a nightstand Buddhist. I was one of these where you buy books and you read them at night, and when you're done, you put them by your nightstand. But you never go out and find a teacher, and you never practice. And so he was really emphasizing to us that this importance of Sangha in the United States is maybe key to the survival of Buddhism as a tradition in America. And that really struck me. And maybe he came to this same conclusion during COVID as well. My wife teaches yoga, and yoga on Zoom is just not, it just doesn't cut it. Her students say that when the phone rings, they answer the phone. And they've got a timer on their cooking in the kitchen. And when the dog comes in, they're totally distracted. And so there's something happens when you're in a group. There's a power or an energy that you don't get when you try to practice alone. And that was one of the reasons why I went to OCBC 25 years ago, because the books I kept reading said you've got to go find a teacher, right? You have to find a Sangha. And Thich Nhat Hanh has a famous quote I found while I was researching the importance of Sangha. He said, "The next Buddha may be a Sangha." And he wrote an essay about this. He said, "Happiness is not something you get from outside. We can touch the body of the Buddha from within us and around us at any time. And I know the Sangha body is in me and around me. The trees, the grasses, the blue sky, the flowers are all elements of my Sangha. And you are my Sangha body. You take care of me. If a Sangha is available in your area, please keep in touch and take refuge there. If the Sangha doesn't have the quality you expect, don't abandon it. Do not look for a perfect Sangha. Stick to the one you have and try, with your practice and your joy and peace, to improve its quality. This is very important. Members of your Sangha may be your child, your partner, and a beautiful path in the wood. The blue sky and the beautiful trees are also members of your Sangha. Please use your talent and your intuition to create a Sangha for your own support and practice. We all need a Sangha very much." The Buddhist Shakyamuni, our teacher, predicted that the next Buddha would be Maitreya, the Buddha of love. We desperately need love. And in the Buddha's teaching, we learn that love is born from understanding. The willingness to love is not enough. If you do not understand, you cannot have love. It is possible the next Buddha will not take form of an individual. The next Buddha may take form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. And the practice can be carried out as a group, as a city, and as a nation. So, the United States is under a lot of pressure right now. There's a lot of drama and conflict. And, we try to make our temples a spiritual oasis, a place where we can calmly practice with one another, learn mindfulness. A lot of times, being in a Sangha actually helps your practice. When you volunteer for events, you put yourself secondary and you become part of a group. When I went to OCBC, The first time I actually went was in 1997 for the Hanamatsuri Festival. And when I went there, I noticed that nobody was in charge. Like everything was getting done, but I couldn't tell who was the boss. I couldn't see a hierarchy. There was no hierarchy. There was no management. And I thought that was so different from the way it was at my work. The other thing that happened is my wife and I went into the Hondo to look at the Naijin, and it was all lit up in gold. I could smell incense. It was very peaceful. And I remember when I came in through the doorway, I thought to myself, I really wish my life felt the way the altar looks. And that it's like a giant billboard for peace and tranquility in your life. And that visual image really awoken a desire in me to practice. You know, I wanted that with that look to be the way my life felt every day. So I noticed the OCBC service book back there, and on page 22, in contemporary readings, Thich Nhat Hanh, we have a version of his three treasures, and I'd like to read that to you. He is very liberal, very non-traditional, and he's always exploring new ways to express the Dharma. So it starts out, the three treasures are kind of outside yourself, inside yourself, and then all around you as you practice. So please join me in Gassho. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of the Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of the Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha in myself, I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma in myself, I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha in myself, I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. So, one thing I wanted to mention too is a lot of things are true in Buddhism, but they're not real. And so what he's saying here, I think, is true, but it's not necessarily real. So we have to go from like an academic understanding of something that we know is true to something that we feel that is real. There's a saying sometimes I've heard people say that we're all Buddhas. We're all Buddhas. And I think that might literally be true, but it's not real until we experience it and we practice within a Sangha. And then we can experience that as something that's real and not just merely true. So I wanted to thank you again for inviting me to not Nirvana Day, but to Parinirvana Day. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Thank you very much.
少し日本語でお話しさせていただきます。どうぞ合唱してください。弟子たちよ、今は私の最後の時である。しかし、この死は肉体の死であることを忘れてはならない。肉体は父、母より生まれ、食によって保たれるものであるから、病気になり、傷つき、壊れることはやむを得ない。仏の本質は肉体ではない悟りである。肉体はここに滅びても、悟りは永遠に見教えと道とに生きている。だから私の肉体を見る者が私を見るのではなく、私の教えを知る者こそ私を見るのであると。弟子たちよ、 今や私の最後である。私は今より涅槃に入るであろう。これが私の最後の教会である。何万ナブス、何万ナブス。皆様、本日はようこそお参りくださいました。今日は涅槃会を務めさせていただいております。今、先ほど読ませていただいたのが、お釈迦様が亡くなられる最後に残された言葉でございます。皆様ご存知のように、お釈迦様は4つの苦しみを説かれました。生まれてくる苦しみ、そして生まれると必ず年を取って病気になって死んでいくという苦しみです。この4つの苦しみ自体が苦しみではなくて、私たちのですね、健康でいたい、病気になりたくない、年を取りたくない、ずっと若くいたい、死にたくない、ずっと長生きしたいという私たちの欲望が苦しみを生むわけです。そしてこのお釈迦様は周りにですね、たくさんのお弟子さんが最後を見取られるときに、皆さん悲しんでおられる中、悲しむんではないですよと、私は亡くなっても皆さんと一緒に見教えとなって生き続けるということを言われたわけです。ここにお立ちの仏様は阿弥陀如来、阿弥陀様です。他の宗派のお寺に行かれますと、この阿弥陀様のところにお釈迦様が立っておられますけど、浄土真宗のお寺では阿弥陀様が立っておられます。そしてこの一番前にですね、4つの巻いたお経が立っております。右から2つはですね、大無量寿経、そして漢無量寿経、一番細いのが阿弥陀経という、この3つのお経典が説かれてあるわけですが、このお経典、見教えがですね、お釈迦様を示しているわけです。お釈迦様は何を生涯かけて説かれたかというと、ここにお立ちの阿弥陀様のご本が生きとし生けるもののすべてをいつでもどこででも必ず救いますよという願いを立てられて、私たち常に迷っている欲望に生きている私たちを必ず救いますよという見教えを残してくださいました。ですから、毎日の日暮らしの中で、このお釈迦様が残された阿弥陀様の誓い、生きとし生けるものをすべてを必ず救いますよという、この誓いをお聞かせいただきながら、お念仏の日暮らしをさせていただきましょう。本日はようこそのお参りでございました。どうぞ合唱してください。何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス、何万ダウス。
Thank you, Reverend Turner and Reverend Takata, for your Dharma messages this morning. Up next, we have the reading of Rogemon.
Please join me in reading the Rogemon by Master Renyo. We rely upon Amida Buddha with our whole heart for the enlightenment in the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practice and teachings, and giving up the trust in our imperfect view. There is no doubt that the assurance of enlightenment comes at the very moment we entrust, and we recite the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, in joy and gratitude for the Buddha's compassion. We also acknowledge gratefully the benign benevolence of our founder and succeeding masters who have led us to live in this profound teaching, and we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. 両下質問、もろもろの造業脱臭自力の心を振り捨てて、一心に阿弥陀如来、我らが今度の一大事の御所、御助け総来と頼み申して候。頼む一年の時、往生一条御助け事情と存じ、この上の称名は言法者と存じ、喜び申し候。この恩断り弔問申し訳候こと、 ご解散承認ご出世の言、次第僧上の前錦の朝からざるご関係の言と、ありがたく存じ候。この上は定めおかせられる恩をきて、一号を限り守り申すべく候。何万だす、何万だす、何万だす。
Thank you, Sensei. Next, I would like to welcome our new members to our temple from last year to 2023. So I don't see anyone here, but I know that I saw some people on Zoom. So let me introduce everyone who joined our temple membership last year. Michael, and if you're on Zoom, if you want to, show your face or anything or wave hi, that would be great. Michael Giles, Bonnie Inai, Naomi Kageyama, and her daughter Sarah, Michelle Kato, and daughter Sophia and son Sean, Donald Ma, and his wife Judy Ma, James McQuillan, Susie Nishiyama, and Kevin Yamaguchi. So I'd like to thank these people for their support and all of our temple members here. And membership, being part of the temple, you get there's a couple of benefits to becoming a member, and that's you become a member of the BCA, which you get the Wheel of Dharma every month. You're able to attend seminars and other events that the BCA puts on, as well as some of the events that we put on here at West LA. So I would like to thank everyone who are members of the temple, as well as anyone else here who would like to become a member. The 2024 membership forms are online, and it will be also included in the next month's G-Code newsletter. So, Sensei, you have something?
I'd like to welcome all the members. Thank you very much for joining. Majority of members, new members, joined our temple after they lost their loved ones. And like Michael, he regularly attend our Dharma service via Zoom. He lives in Boston, but he usually attend our Sunday service and also class, seminars, and so forth. So thank you very much, and I wish to welcome all of you. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for becoming members of the temple. Now we'll have announcements. On March the 16th, we have our Spring Higan seminar. It's entitled Shinjin or Enlightenment, and our guest speaker for that seminar will be Reverend Kenneth Fujimoto. He's a Minister Emeritus for the Buddhist Churches of America. And the following day, we'll have our Spring Higan Dharma service, which is on March 17th. And Reverend Fujimoto will also be the speaker for that service as well. Now, we'll have a special service called Kieshiki, Affirmation Ceremony, and that will be on Sunday, March 31st at 10 a.m. And this is, I guess you pledge to become a member of Jodo Shinshu. And the officiant for that service is Reverend Marvin Harada, who's the bishop of BCA. So this one has a deadline to register, and the registration fee is $50, and the deadline is February 29th. So if you would like to join us for that service and get your homyo, please register by February 29th. Oh, and this is another benefit to being a member. So if you are a member, then you'll be able to, you need to be a member in order to attend this, to be part of this service. Next, we have a bunch of study classes. The first one is what is Jodo Shinshu teaching, and that's led by Reverend Takata. And the next one looks like will be on February 17th, overturning the mind of self-power to the Buddha. Suggested registration fee for that is $50. And if you can't join us on the Saturday classes, we have a Wednesday class that's at 7 p.m. And the next one for that is on February 21st, Compassion in the Pure Land Path. We also have our Dharma Kids, our monthly Dharma Kids program, which has been, we were able to see a lot of kids come out and enjoy themselves. So the next one for that is March 3rd. And that is typically right in the middle of our services. So if you have any kids, come join us for that. Reverend Umezu also has a monthly Shoshinge chanting service, as well as her Buddhism Beyond Mindfulness class. And the next one for that is March 9th. The chanting service begins at 10 a.m., and that's in person only. And then Buddhism Beyond Mindfulness is hybrid, so in person and on Zoom, and that will start at 11 a.m. We also have bingo at the temple, and that's every third Friday of the month. As you all know, Connie announced that this month and next month there'll be, I think she said, a $100, $200 cash prize for one of the games. So definitely come out. It starts at 7 p.m. on the third Friday of every month. And we also have our West Los Angeles T-shirts. They're $20 each, and they look like this, and you can see it on the screen as well. It comes in two styles: the V-neck for women and the crew neck for everyone. And you can purchase them online on our website, or you can come see us in the temple. And finally, in 2026, as we've been announcing, we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary, our centennial, and we're doing a bunch of projects, including upgrades to our Hondo, upgrades to our Onaijin, and upgrades to our Nokotsudo, which you're seeing on the screen right now. And over here is a sample of what one of the niches would look like. We've done a couple of upgrades, like for the temple, like including our flooring in the Onaijin, and our Nokotsudo is set to be installed later this year in September. You should get more information. I think one letter has gone out already about our 100th anniversary, so stay tuned for more information on more upcoming events and fundraising and things like that, and ways to support the temple. Thank you. And one last thing I have, if you're a member and you didn't get your 2024 BCA calendar, we have a few extras in the back, and if you would like to take one home with you, there's a bunch in the back. So it's a pretty nice calendar, and we haven't had a calendar for a few years now, since the pandemic. So if you would like one, let us know. All right, I guess that concludes service for today. After service, for the people here, we have some coffee and donuts in the back if you guys want to stick around and mingle a little bit. And enjoy the big game tonight. So Sensei?
Thank you very much. Please offer the incense. Thank you.